All right, let's dive into now. We're checking out this YouTube video from History of the Universe. It's called When Actually Are You? And, well, it's going to make us think.
It really does.
It really makes you kind of rethink, like, this whole idea of now, you know?
Yeah.
Something we just kind of take for granted.
Yeah.
But it's way more complicated than we think.
It is. It's super slippery when you start to dig into it.
Yeah. So, like, the video starts off with this whole thing about pigeons, and it's talking about, like, how pigeons basically live in slow motion. And the example they give is, like, you know, when pigeons react to a car coming at them,
Right.
it seems like it's, like, the last second. Like, how did they not get hit?
Yeah.
But it's because they're actually processing the visual information so much faster
Yeah.
than us.
It's like they have a superpower, right?
Yeah.
They're seeing way more frames per second than we are.
Totally. Yeah.
Which makes sense, you know, evolutionarily.
Yeah.
Different species develop their own time scales for survival.
Okay, but are you ready for, like, your mind to be blown?
I think so. Hit me.
Okay. The video then introduces the star whale.
Okay.
Now, stick with me here. The star whale is this, it's this big space creature
Right.
that travels at near the speed of light.
Okay.
Now, for this star whale, billions of years passing for us would feel like the blink of an eye to them.
Yeah.
So it's using the star whale to kind of illustrate Einstein's theory of relativity,
Right.
which it's not just a science fiction concept.
No.
Time is literally relative to how fast you're moving.
Right.
So that means, like, even our fastest rockets, that's got to cause tiny time distortions, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
time dilation, does that mean astronauts actually age a bit slower than us?
That's exactly what it means.
Oh.
It's a tiny, tiny effect at the speeds we can travel now.
Yeah.
But it's measurable.
Wow.
And the faster you move through space, the slower time passes for you relative to, you know, someone who's stationary.
Hold on, I need a minute to process this. So you're saying, like, the faster we go, the slower we age compared to people back on Earth.
That's exactly right.
Okay. That is bending my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it's definitely counterintuitive.
Right.
But that's how time works. And, you know, even without interstellar travel, our senses already mess with now.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
Remember that example in the video about the Michelin star meal?
Uh-huh.
So you're eating this amazing meal.
Yeah.
You take this delicious bite.
Right.
But your brain doesn't actually register the taste until, like, 100 milliseconds later.
That's right. Yeah.
We're literally tasting the pad.
And it's not just taste, touch, smell,
Yeah.
even sounds. All of our senses have these, built-in delays.
Right.
So our brains are constantly trying to catch up to what's actually happening.
So are we basically like time travelers in our own bodies?
I mean, in a way, yeah. We're experiencing a slightly delayed reality. And this whole sensory time warp thing, it extends way beyond ourselves, too.
Okay.
I mean, think about, like, when you look at the moon, you're not seeing it as it is right now. You're seeing it as it was 1.3 seconds ago.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's how long it takes for the light to travel that distance.
Right.
So for those distant stars we see, I mean, it could be years, decades, even centuries in the past.
So it's like we're looking back in time to, like, this really deep time.
It is, yeah.
But hold on. So if light takes time to travel like that,
Yeah.
does that mean everything we see as now is already the past? Like, does that apply to everything, even on Earth?
You're getting at a really, really important point here.
Okay.
The speed of light is, like, it's the ultimate speed limit in the universe.
Right.
And that means there's always going to be a delay between when something happens and when we actually see it.
So, like, when I'm looking at you right now, I'm technically seeing you a tiny fraction of a second in the past.
Exactly. Precisely.
This is wild.
And this lag, it has some pretty crazy consequences.
Right.
Like, remember the example in the video about controlling a Mars rover?
Yeah.
Like, by the time our signals get to Mars,
Right.
The rover could have already landed or crashed.
So we're constantly reacting to, like, a past version of reality.
We are, yeah. It's like we're playing catch up with the universe.
This makes space exploration so much more complex than I ever realized.
Oh, yeah. It really does. And it brings up this question that keeps coming back in this video,
Yeah.
What even is now if everything we perceive has this delay built into it?
Yeah, it really makes you question everything.
It does.
Is now just an illusion? How can we even wrap our heads around it? Like, if the speed of light makes everything so relative?
Well, the video goes into this thought experiment to try to help us understand just how relative now can actually be, and it involves a moving train.
Okay.
and 2 simultaneous lightning strikes.
Ooh, I love a good thought experiment. Okay, lay it on me.
Okay, so picture this. You're standing on the ground,
All right.
and you're watching a train go by. Suddenly, 2 lightning bolts strike the track at each end of the train.
Okay.
Simultaneously, from your perspective.
Okay, I'm visualizing it. 2 bolts, bam, at the same time.
Exactly.
Okay.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
Let's say you're on that train,
Yeah.
moving towards one of those lightning strikes.
Right.
You would actually perceive that bolt hitting before the other one.
Wait, seriously? But they happened at the same time?
From your stationary point of view on the ground, yes, absolutely.
Right.
But because the person on the train is moving towards one of those light sources,
Okay.
that light from that strike is going to reach their eyes sooner.
So you're saying 2 people can witness the same event at the same time and disagree on the order that it happened.
Exactly.
This is making my head spin a little bit. Okay, so whose now is the right one?
It's not about one being right and the other one wrong.
Okay.
It's that the observer's motion actually changes their perception of when things happen. So now becomes relative.
So time isn't this fixed universal thing.
Right.
It's completely dependent on your perspective.
Yeah.
Wow, this video is blowing my mind. Okay, but even if we can kind of accept that, like, now is relative, why does time seem to flow in only one direction? Like, why can't we, rewind our lives like a movie?
That's where we get into the really fascinating work of Eduard Muybridge, who was a pioneer of chronophotography.
Wait, wasn't he the guy who took those old-timey photos of horses galloping, like, way back in the day?
That's the one, exactly. He captured motion as a series of still images.
Okay.
And what he revealed was actually something really profound.
Okay.
What we perceive as this smooth, continuous movement is actually just a bunch of frozen moments kind of strung together.
So our brains are basically tricking us into seeing time flow.
Kind of, yeah. It's making a movie out of a bunch of stills.
That's a pretty brilliant trick.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Like watching a film.
Yeah.
The individual frames are static.
Right.
But when they're played in sequence, we get this illusion of motion.
Yeah.
And the passage of time.
Okay, so our brains are like master storytellers.
They are, yeah.
Weaving these moments into a narrative that we experience as now.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still that big question. Why does time seem to have this arrow?
Right.
Always moving from past to future.
Right. And that's where we get into the world of entropy.
Okay.
And entropy is a measure of disorder in a system.
Oh, right.
And it plays a key role in helping us to understand why time can't be rewound.
Okay, so we've gone from relativity to photography. Now we're at entropy.
We are, yeah. We're going deep here.
We are really diving deep.
We are. Think about it this way.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine you drop a glass.
Okay, yeah.
It shatters into a bunch of pieces.
Yeah, that's a familiar scene at my house, unfortunately.
Yeah. But the point is, it's easy to create that disorder.
Right.
It's a lot harder to put it back together.
Yeah, totally. But what does that have to do with time?
It's all about the second law of thermodynamics.
Okay.
Which states that entropy, that disorder, always increases over time in a closed system.
So things tend to become more chaotic, not less.
Exactly. Think of a deck of cards.
Okay.
A new deck is perfectly ordered.
Right.
You shuffle it, and
Right.
it becomes more random.
Okay.
That's kind of like the universe
Okay.
always tending towards chaos.
Right.
And this tendency towards increasing entropy, that's what gives time its direction, its arrow.
Okay. Entropy, I get it.
Yeah.
But then, how did we get such complex, ordered structures in the first place? Like galaxies and stars, even us.
Right.
We're not exactly chaotic blobs.
Right. And that is one of the biggest mysteries in cosmology.
Really?
The fact that the universe began in a state of incredibly low entropy. That's still a huge puzzle.
So it's like finding a perfectly organized closet in the middle of a hurricane.
Yeah, pretty much. How did we start with so much order when everything is supposedly moving towards chaos?
Right.
The video actually mentions this fascinating theory
Okay.
by the physicist Julian Barber,
Okay.
who suggests that the Big Bang might not actually be the beginning of time,
Okay.
but more like a midpoint.
Hold on. A midpoint?
Yeah.
You're saying there could be another side to the universe where time runs in reverse.
That's exactly what he's suggesting.
What?
He calls it the Janus point.
Okay.
And it's this point of symmetry where two universes with opposite arrows of time are joined together.
Whoa.
It's a pretty wild idea.
It is a wild idea. A mere universe where time flows backwards. I need to sit down and process this for a minute.
It's a lot to take in, for sure.
Yeah.
And it is just one theory among many.
Right.
The origin of the universe's low entropy
Yeah.
is still a big open question.
Okay, so we've gone from pigeons to space whales to the very origins of the universe.
Yeah, we have. This deep dive is already a whirlwind.
It is a whirlwind, but I think it's time to maybe bring our focus back down to Earth a little bit, or more specifically, back to our own brains.
Good point.
Because, the video does a good job of reminding us that, like, so much of how we perceive time is ultimately a construct of our own minds.
That's true.
So even if we solve all the, like, cosmic mysteries of time, there's still the puzzle of, like, how our own brains play tricks on us.
Exactly. And we've got a lot more to unpack there. There's a lot more to talk about.
Yeah, we've just kind of scratched the surface of how our brains are shaping our now.
We have. So welcome back to our deep dive into now.
Yeah.
In part one, we were talking about how our brains and biology and even the universe mess with our perception of time.
My head is still spinning from those relativistic space whales, and the idea that looking at the stars is basically like looking back in time.
Right.
But before we get too lost in the cosmos, I want to bring it back to something we touched on earlier, which is this connection between our emotions and our sense of time.
Yeah, it's a fascinating link. And, the video hints at some possible explanations for why that is.
Well, I'm all ears. Why would how we feel affect how we perceive time? I mean, that we all know, like, time flies when you're having fun.
Right.
But what's the, like, actual science behind that?
Well, one theory is that it's all tied to our survival instincts.
Okay.
So imagine, like, our ancestors facing, a threat, like a saber-toothed tiger or a sudden storm. In those moments of, like, intense fear or excitement, time might seem to slow down. And that would give them those precious extra seconds to react.
Oh, like how in movies everything goes into slow-mo, like as the hero dodges the bullet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives you more time to process the threat, make a decision.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
And then on the flip side, when we're engaged in pleasurable activities, time seems to, like, zip by.
Right.
And this could be because our brains are actually prioritizing storing those, those positive memories, making them feel denser and longer lasting.
So our brains are basically time warping based on, like, what we find important for survival or enjoyment.
In a way, yeah. It suggests that our perception of time isn't just about, like, objective reality, but it's also about our subjective experience and what matters most to us.
That makes sense. But it also makes me wonder, like, if now is so subjective and malleable, like, what does that mean for our sense of self? Like, if our perception of time is constantly shifting, does that mean our identity is too?
Those are some really deep questions.
Yeah.
That get to the heart of, like, what it means to be human in a universe where time is relative.
Right.
It's like the video said, from a photon's perspective.
Yeah.
Time doesn't even exist.
Wait, seriously, time doesn't exist for light.
A photon traveling at the speed of light, experiences no now.
Wow.
No past, no future. It's a timeless existence.
Okay, my brain is officially fried.
Yeah.
But okay, if time is so different depending on your perspective, what is the real version?
Yeah.
Is there even one?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's one that, philosophers and physicists have been debating for centuries. The video doesn't really give us any easy answers.
Right.
But it does remind us that our perception of reality, including time, is it's limited by our human perspective.
It's both humbling and exciting at the same time.
It is
humbling because it shows us how much we don't know.
Right.
But exciting because there's, like, so much more to discover.
Yeah.
But before we go any further down this rabbit hole, I kind of want to come back to something else that the video highlighted.
All right.
Which is those deleted nows, where our brains are actually editing and filling in the gaps in our perception.
Yeah, it challenges this idea that our memories are this continuous, reliable record of our lives.
Well, the video uses the example of saccadic eye movements, which are those tiny jumps our eyes make as we scan our surroundings.
Yeah.
Turns out our brains are constantly discarding information during those jumps, and creating the seamless illusion of what we see.
Yeah, it's like our brains are filmmakers, constantly editing together the best takes to create this smooth, watchable movie of our lives.
Okay, that's a really cool analogy.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, like, how much can we actually trust if our brains are already making edits in real time?
Yeah.
How much of what we remember is even accurate?
That's a question that cognitive scientists are still really grappling with.
Okay.
I mean, memory is, it's a reconstructive process.
Right.
It's not a perfect recording.
Okay.
Every time we recall a memory, we're essentially rebuilding it. Mm-hmm. And there's always room for errors to slip in.
So our memories are more like interpretations of the past than faithful reproductions. Like they're our brain's best guess at what happened.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. And that has implications for, everything from eyewitness testimony in court cases to the stories we tell ourselves about who we are.
It's kind of unsettling to think about how much of what we remember might not be entirely accurate. Like, does that mean our sense of self is also kind of unreliable?
It's possible. I mean, our identities aren't, they're not static. You know, they evolve as we experience new things and weave those experiences into our personal narratives.
Well, we're constantly rewriting our own life stories.
Yeah.
And now is that point where, like, the past and future are coming together.
You got it. Now is this constantly shifting present moment where we make choices, we form memories, and we ultimately shape who we become.
That's pretty profound when you think about it. It brings us back to, I think, like one of the biggest questions that the video raises.
Yeah.
If now is an illusion, like we've been talking about, what does that mean for free will? Do we actually have control over our actions?
Yes.
If our brains are constantly shaping our reality?
That question has philosophers and neuroscientists like tangled up in knots.
Yeah, I bet.
It gets into this whole debate about, determinism versus free will.
Right.
Are our actions, predetermined by our biology?
Yeah.
Or do we have genuine agency?
I'm already feeling my brain overheating again.
Right.
But it is a question worth wrestling with.
It is, yeah.
If our brains are constructing our reality, including our sense of time, does that limit our freedom?
Right.
Or does it actually create new possibilities?
It's a question with no easy answers.
Yeah.
But it goes to the heart of what it means to be human.
Right.
In a universe that's governed by laws of physics, yet also shaped by our own subjective experiences.
So now is more than just a point on a timeline. It's like a doorway into the mysteries of consciousness, free will, and maybe even like the nature of reality itself.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive in part 3, we're going to keep those big questions in mind. We'll explore what it all means for our everyday lives, and how we can make sense of now in a world that's constantly shifting around.
Cool. Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into now. I don't know about you, but my brain is still buzzing from all these mind-bending ideas.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey.
It has been a journey. We've uncovered how our perceptions, our biology, even the universe itself kind of play tricks with our experience of time.
We have. And we've explored time dilation and those deleted nows that our brains create, even the mind-blowing possibility of a universe where time runs in reverse.
I know, it's crazy. But before we get completely lost in the space-time continuum, I think it's time to try to ground ourselves a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we've covered a lot of abstract concepts.
Right.
But what does it all mean for us, practically? How can we apply these insights about now to our everyday lives?
Exactly. What's the takeaway here? How can understanding now differently actually change how we live?
Well, one key takeaway for me is the importance of being present.
Okay.
If now is the only moment we truly have, then it's worth savoring.
Yeah, I hear that. But honestly, being present is way harder than it sounds. My mind is constantly jumping between past regrets and future worries.
Right.
It feels almost impossible to stay focused on the present moment.
It definitely takes practice.
Yeah.
I mean, our brains they're wired to dwell in the past and to anticipate the future. But, mindfulness techniques like meditation can help us to kind of train our minds to be more present.
So it's about being more aware of our thoughts and feelings without getting swept away by them.
Exactly. Noticing when your mind drifts to the past or the future and just gently bringing it back to the present moment.
Okay, yeah.
And, by cultivating that sense of presence, I think we can appreciate the richness of each experience more and even reduce stress and anxiety.
That makes sense. And, remember how the video talked about how our emotions influence our experience of time?
Yeah.
If we're stressed or anxious, time seems to drag on forever. But if we're engaged and joyful, it flies by.
Exactly. It's a powerful reminder that we actually have some agency over how we perceive time.
Oh, okay.
By focusing on experiences that bring us joy and cultivating positive emotions, we can actually shape how we experience now.
So it's not just about like being present,
right,
but it's about being present in a way that aligns with our values and what matters to us.
Precisely. It's about making conscious choices about how we spend our nows.
Right.
In ways that feel meaningful and fulfilling.
That's a really empowering thought. Even though time might be an illusion in some ways, we still have the power to choose how we experience it. It's like we're not just passive passengers on this time train. Like we have some control over the route.
Exactly. And embracing the fluidity and subjectivity of now.
Yeah.
I think that can open us up to new possibilities and perspectives.
I gotta say, this deep dive has definitely made me question everything I thought I knew about time. It's been a wild, mind-expanding ride.
Yeah, it has. It's been a real pleasure exploring these ideas with you. It's amazing how diving into a single YouTube video can lead to such profound questions about the nature of reality.
Yeah, totally. And as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought to ponder.
Okay.
If now is an illusion, a construct of our brains, like we've been talking about, what does that mean for the future? Do we create the future through the choices we make in the present moment? Or is it already like predetermined? Is free will an illusion too?
Those are some of life's biggest questions, and they're not ones with easy answers. Maybe the real lesson here isn't about finding definitive truths about time, but rather about embracing the mystery and making the most of each fleeting moment we have.
Beautifully said. And on that note, we'll leave you to continue your own explorations of now. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep savoring those precious nows.